American cops versus Canadian cops. G'day guys, how's it going? My name is AussieTash. This video was suggested to me by one of my members on Discord. Really looking forward to seeing the comparisons, the difference in the violence, the crime rate, the pay rate, the mental health, so many different things I'm interested in finding out. So let's just get into it.
The USA has long been called the land of opportunity, but there are many people these days that will tell you the American dream has for a long time been less of a reality. Canada, on the other, is often depicted as an easier place to have an existence. It's a country with far less of a divide between the rich and poor, and you'll still find it on best quality of life lists somewhere in the top 10. At the same time, the USA makes headlines for such things as having worryingly high crime rates for a developed nation, incredibly high incarceration rates, and a healthcare system that might bankrupt its own citizens. We might be being harsh here, and we certainly aren't saying Canada is a utopia. Alright, so you want to be a cop in the USA. You've done your research, meaning you've seen The Wire, watched all episodes of NYPD Blue, and even stayed up late to watch reruns of Columbo and Cagney and Lacey. You are basically ready to hit the streets, right? Well, we should tell you a few things about what you need to do to become a police officer in America. The good news is that you don't have to be a genius to land the job. It's open to most people, so long as you have some brain power and didn't spend your teens doing hits for the Mexican mafia. You can get a law enforcement degree, and this should land you better jobs, but you can also apply to be a cop after high school. So to get in, you'll need a high school diploma or a GED, which is considered equal to that diploma. After that, you'll be interviewed and have background checks. If you have a minor offense, you may still get in. You may not have to be super fit, but you'll likely have to be relatively fit. Once you get into the academy, you'll have to pass some kind of entrance exam, such as the law enforcement examination. Then you'll start your training. You'll also have to pass a fitness test or the police physical fitness abilities test. These tests can change depending on where you're training, but you'll mostly have to show you can sprint reasonably fast and able to run 1.5 miles in anywhere from 16 to 20 minutes. But you'll have to show your strength by doing a fairly tricky obstacle course. And on top of that, you'll have to do around 20 push-ups in 1 minute and 30 sit-ups in 1 minute. As we said, this can change depending on the academy. Let's just say you have to be fairly fit to pass, but by no means have to be an exceptional athlete. Training will last around 30 weeks, and even after you've passed, you'll be put on probation for up to 18 months at the department where you'll be working.
Before we go to Canada and hear about how to become a police officer in Canada, I'll tell you a little bit about how to become a police officer in Australia. You just have to finish year 12, get your certificate, put in, I think, what's called an expression of interest with the Police Force Australia, the training school. Go there, do your training, do your fitness tests, stuff like that. Your mental test, pretty much very similar to what it's like in America here, from what I can see. We do have this thing called the beep test. They made us do it in high school as well. It's really, really scary. You basically have to just sprint up and back, up and back, up and back, the same distance, but it beeps every time, and the beeps get shorter and shorter and shorter, and you have to be able to do the beep test up to a certain level. Man, it was horrible. I hated it at school. Just going back, watching all the cop shows. He failed to mention Cops. Bad boys, bad boys. We all remember watching that show, man. Oh my God, that show went for ages, and that was real life footage, eh? That was some crazy stuff you seen on that show. Let's hear about Canadian cops.
In Canada, you can also start training at age 18, but you cannot hit the streets until you're 19. You'll also need a high school diploma or the equivalent, and during the interview process, you'll have to show good health, both mental and physical. On its website, the RCMP says, turning up to the interview looking like you've done nothing but eat donuts and played Grand Theft Auto throughout high school will put you at a distinct disadvantage. You'll also have to pass background checks, and again, a very small infraction in life may not mean you can't get in. Pass the interview, and off you'll go to training school for 26 weeks.
26 weeks?
Yes, again, there will be written tests that should not challenge most who have done okay in high school. As for the fitness test, you'll need to do the physical abilities requirement evaluation, and that will consist of doing an obstacle course, push-ups and pull-ups, and a weighted carry, all under a time of 5 minutes and 30 seconds or less. And that's at the start of training. At the end, you'll have to be able to do that same test in less than 4 minutes. So now you're in the force, but what's it like? Well, first of all, how much are you being paid? The amount fluctuates across the USA, but PayScale in 2017 said the average was $44,000 a year for the first 0 to 5 years as a rookie cop. Other sites tell us the starting salary for most cops is closer to $30,000, and it will increase by the year. That might go up to $50,000 between your 5th and your 10th year, but it depends on how well you do. Where you are matters a lot, with sources telling us that the average wage for cops in California is considerably more than double the average for cops in
Why is
Mississippi.
that?
As for Canada, you can check out the job site Indeed and see police officer positions with a yearly wage of around $60,000. After we
Wow.
converted them from Canadian dollars, again, it depends on where you work, but PayScale tells us the average salary when you just join the force is around $37,000.
Okay.
Just like in the US, that can easily go up to $50,000 after a few years. It seems the wages for US cops and Canadian cops are not dramatically different, but which country would be better to work in?
Okay, Australian police officers, I think the minimum would have to be at least $45,000 because $37,000, that's way below minimum wage. That would not be a thing. America, $40,000 for 5 years minimum. That's probably translated in Australia to about $47,000, $48,000 a year. But I'm pretty sure that's the wage that our police are on in the first couple of years. Probably around $45,000 to $47,000, I reckon. I'm not quite too sure. If you're an Australian police officer, jump on, let me know.
We're told that a big difference in policing is the fact that Canada has a federal criminal code, while in the US things
they've got
change
all
from
different
state to state.
states.
This means in Canada, training and procedures are the same all over, which can
Yeah.
make life easier. One website tells us that in Canada, the money for police force comes from taxes, while in the US, part of the money comes from the tickets people have to pay. That website tells us that this has led to a stricter kind of policing in the US, as the force needs to make money. We're told in
Yes.
Canada they call it a police service, while in the US it's called a police force. Canadians adopt a kind of community policing, while in the US the cops are perhaps less part of their communities. Then there's the matter of higher crime rates in the US. We'll let an expert explain.
Okay, just go back to the tickets and stuff like that. It is definitely a revenue raiser for the Australian government, man. You see the police officers on the side of the road with their speed cameras, trying to get you. We say they're trying to make their monthly quota. It is definitely a revenue raiser here in Australia. And if you're doing the wrong thing, sorry guys, you're going to cop the fine. That's just how it is.
Canadians often point to a single major difference between our two cultures as a starting point. Guns are far more easily available in the United States
Yes,
than in
they
Canada.
are.
This environment leads to a tense situation for any police officer, no matter how polite he or she may wish to appear.
You'd be scared,
And this
man.
means the US police are not only in more danger, but tend to use a bit more force. We've all seen the videos of perhaps rather over-the-top policing. We might also say that officers are in some part of the US under tremendous stresses,
Oh, they
given the number of
definitely
guns on the
are.
street. We're told that US officers use lethal force about 6 times more than the average Canadian cop.
Wow.
The Washington Post told us that in 2015, US police shot and killed close to 1,000 people, while in Canada that number on average was about 15
my
people a year.
God.
Unless you're mentally unhinged, killing people is something you certainly don't want to do. And in the US, as a police officer, it's much more likely that you will. We're told that in 2018, according to the Officer Down Memorial page, 149 deaths of officers occurred in the line of duty.
What?
Most were shootings, but cops also perish in car crashes while performing their duties and other ways. Some deaths might just have been accidents, but we're told firearms were involved in most deaths.
Oh my gosh. If you want to be a police officer in America, oh my gosh, you are a brave person, man. Because look what you are walking into. 149 police officers killed just in 1 year. Guns, they're everywhere. It's no secret. You see it all the time. You see about the mass shootings and stuff all the time. Yeah, you have people, police, you have young people, you have Americans that are willing to sign up for, out of honor, out of duty, out of respect for their country. I don't know whether to call them crazy or just amazing people, but yeah, they have to go through a lot, eh? There's a lot of bad stuff out there. So, yeah. Oh my gosh. The guns. I know it's always the thing it goes back to. It goes back to the guns. And that's really, really sad.
In comparison, the Canadian Broadcasting Association looked at the Canadian Police Memorial statistics and told us in 2018, since 1975, a total of 284 police officers
Since
have died on the job.
1975.
Of these, 101 were homicide victims, while 88 were killed in vehicle accidents,
Vehicle
often while
accidents?
rushing to respond to a call in poor road
Ah,
conditions.
Okay.
We can certainly say that officers in the U.S. have the more dangerous job by
Yeah,
a
they
long
do.
way. So you're getting a similar wage, but have a more chance of killing someone and a more chance
Oh.
of being killed. You're also more likely to have to use force to adopt a more aggressive style of policing, all of which would likely make your job more stressful in the U.S.
You don't really see a lot police shootings and stuff like that on TV. Like, it's not something you'll see on the news every day. maybe in the last 6 months or so, if I think about it, there has been, a shooting here or there where police have had to taser people, not so much shoot people. I think in Queensland, actually, in my state of Australia, about 2 months ago, there was a fatal shooting where two police officers were killed. But we don't see it a lot on TV. So I'm guessing in Australia, it's probably safer to be a police officer, definitely than it is in America, that's for sure.
We might also add here that there are many more cops in the US than there are in Canada. Statistics tell us that there are about 70,000 police officers in Canada and almost 10 times that amount in the USA.
Wow.
Other stats tell us the USA has considerably more officers per capita than Canada, but Canada has a lot less crime. We might also look at websites that list countries for the worst police brutality, and next to developed countries sometimes stands the USA. We're not going to go into all the reasons why this happens, but we might say that any chance of being part of such brutality might be said to have future negative consequences, not only for the victims but also the perpetrators. Even if they don't get caught, one day it's likely their actions will cause them some amount of unhappiness. Just reading various sites, it seems Canadians in general have more trust in their police. This no doubt makes their job easier. Psychology Today tells us this of U.S. policing. Recent polls suggest that the majority of Americans do not feel that the police are adequately held accountable for their actions, treat racial groups equally, or use the right amount of force.
That's a bit dicey, isn't it?
With Canadian police being liked more by those they serve, the fact that they have less chance of being killed, the fact that they deal with less crime and likely suffer less trauma, and the fact that their wages are not too different than their counterparts in the US, we'd say being a cop in Canada is better.
Well, I guess going off those statistics, being a cop in Canada is probably better. It pays a little bit more, and obviously the environment is much safer. In Australia, mate, I have nothing but 100% admiration and respect for police officers, man. They've signed up to do a job, to put their lives on the line, to serve our country, to serve me, mate. And I absolutely love that. If you're doing the wrong thing, then you know what? You're going to get caught, mate. If you don't do the wrong thing, then she should be right. She should all be right. That was the video for today. If you liked it, please jump on, smash the like button, leave a comment, and please remember to subscribe. That really helps me out. If you're a Canadian police officer, jump on, tell me what do you think about these statistics. Tell me some funny stories. Not, I don't want to hear sad stories, but, like a funny story, like something that you had to do or something like that. I did find the video fascinating. I found some really, really sad things in this video, but it was a good comparison video. Cheers to None Under. Take care. Bye.